our 92nd episode of One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer. And JJ, for our 100th episode, oh, there you go.
There you go.
I say we do this. I say
All
we
right.
get like 6, 8 guests, and just for the whole time, just have a big panel.
Oh, that sounds great.
They
I
can
like that.
tell us how bad we suck. Great.
I got some compliments this week, and Vince, this is going to blow your mind. 2 people came up to me and said, "You and Vince, the last 2 months have really hit your stride. You guys are getting better and better." And we were compared. One of the comparisons was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. As good as Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, I was like, "Hey, that's a compliment. I look like Gorilla Monsoon and I talk like Bobby Heenan. It's all right. That's cool."
All right. Who said that?
Tom Boucher. Tom
Okay.
Boucher said that.
Tom, thank you. See, I always liked Tony Schiavone and Larry Zabisco.
Oh, that was good too.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were good
Yes.
together. So, but I'll take it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be your brain to your gorilla, or your gorilla to your brain. It
All
doesn't
right. Sunny to share. Yeah.
Hey, everybody, I do want to remind you to like us on Facebook. You can contact us through onecard1cup1beer@gmail.com. And remember, those of you who are watching the YouTube channel, if you can go to the subscribe button, hit that, you will be notified immediately when we drop new content. You can support us through Patreon. You go to patreon.com and just search One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and you can support us for $3, $5, or $10. And all your support is greatly appreciated. If you do have an interesting baseball story, anecdote, if you have an expertise of some kind, we want you on this podcast. Let us know. If you want to be on a panel, let us know. If you want to be just put on as like a piece of eye candy, because we don't have any of that here.
We need some eye candy.
Since Max hasn't been on for a few months, we've lost our eye candy. So, but anyway, drop us an email, leave us a comment, contact us some way. We'd love to have you on the show. JJ, I remembered 2 weeks ago was Guinness beer, and I don't know why I was brain cramping, but Guinness. So
Okay.
I went from Foster's Australian to Modelo Mexican to Guinness Irish, and then last week I did Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. There's no place that I would rather be than right here with my redneck White Sox and Blue Ribbon beer. And I decided I'm going to go even more local. I'm going to go back to St. Louis. Classic Bush.
Head for the mountains.
And,
the mountains of Bush.
All right, who's this? And if someone hits a home run here, it's time for a Bush.
Well, I closed my eyes and it was Mike Shannon.
Very
that was
good.
A frosty cold one. Oh, Abner's done it again.
Frosted mug.
Frosted mug.
From the bottle. I'm getting my notes all wet. Condensation dripping on my notes. Without notes, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even know anything about baseball.
Oh, don't let him fool you, folks.
Everything
He knows.
is notes. Look at that. A beautiful Bush beer.
Yes.
Yeah, now this isn't the Bush Light. Or it is also not the Bush Peach beer, which my wife and daughter are very fond of.
I've never heard of that one.
Bush Light Peach flavored beer. It's they put it out in the summer, and they will continue it until usually about middle of fall.
Okay.
So I feel that those kind of flavored beers, there is that to support the local InBev company. Anyway, Bush, here we go.
There we go. St. Louis's own.
Yes. Bush Bavarian beer was brewed first in 1955. It was the first beer made by Anheuser-Busch following Prohibition. That's not right. I got my notes messed up. Sorry. The Bush beer was given the slogan "Clear and bright as mountain air." Do you remember that slogan?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's because in 1955 we weren't around. And Bush beer kind of stayed Bush Bavarian beer until 1979. After nearly a quarter century, Bush Bavarian became just plain Bush beer as we know it today. The new beer with a lighter and sweeter taste was given the slogan "Head for the Mountains," and
Yes.
even its own sound of refreshment, "Whoosh."
That's right.
St. Louis Creek, though.
Real men of genius. I love that commercial line they did.
Ah, very good. JJ, how about a fantasy league update?
All right, Vince, we have ourselves a convoy. No, we have ourselves a pennant race. It's been getting good. Teams are flip flopping almost daily. We got some tight races. We got a few teams that have fallen out. We'll get to that in a minute.
Give
But
it
we'll
to me,
start off.
Rubber Duck.
That's right. Smoky Bear. We are going to start in the American League. And last week, for 2 weeks in a row, Ray Hartman held the first place spot. But this week, I almost felt like I always say Casey Kasem. But this week on the top 40, we have the Royals coming back with vengeance. And they are now taking over first place. Brody Jackson, you all know that juvenile delinquent right there. He's taking over first place. He's got a 2-game lead now on the Red Sox, which is Ray Hartman, and 3.5 on Andrew Gieselman of the Mariners. So the Royals have really gotten hot lately. The Tigers have picked up a little pace. They're now 6 games back, and that's Tony. So those 4 teams are still got a shot at winning the American League pennant in our first annual fantasy league. The Angels. The Angels have picked up a little bit, but they are 12.5 back with about 6 weeks to go. So they better pick up the pace quick. And
And
that
let's hear where
can't.
Dan Rutledge is.
You always got Dan Rutledge. Somebody's got to be pulling up the back. And that's Dan Rutledge and the Chicago White Sox, 27-75. I don't think they've won a game in a while, and they've slipped to 29.5 back. So they have almost been mathematically eliminated. So he's back there. He's not showing off. He's kind of just keeping a pace, and he might make a run here at the end. I tell you what, Chicago might make a lot of trades here at the trading deadline, which is coming up in a week, which
Both
is
teams in Chicago.
yeah. Oh, well, I didn't want to say anything about the Cubs because I don't really know. Cubs are kind of on that bubble, I think. But that's our American League. So right now it's the Royals up in the American League by 2 games. We switch over to the National League, and the Cardinals are still hanging on. Kevin Lee, that's about 3 weeks for him. But now it's just a 1-game lead over the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they've been coming like gangbusters. They've won 9 of the last 12. They're 1 game back, and that is Dennis Rose. Good old Dennis. He never knew anything about the Pirates, but now he's kind of watching them and keeping an eye on them. And the Padres are also 1 game back, which is Robbie Spear. So we've got 3 teams within 1 game of each other, but don't count the Cubs out yet. They're in 4th place, 4 games back. That's Larry Wildy, but 4 games is not that far back. And then we have the Washington Nationals, Tom Maget, 5 games back. And so those 5 teams will be fighting it out for the next 6 weeks. And then the Colorado Rockies are 15.5 back. Brandon Schmidt, who one of our big listeners up in Cincinnati. So right now it just looks like maybe 3 of the 12 teams are kind of outside the bubble. So it would be the Royals and all Missouri World Series if it ends like this. The Royals and the Cardinals. So that's news from the fantasy league right there, Vince.
Wow.
Woo.
I was the Cubs, and I'll get into this in depth when I get to Cubs news and rumors. The Cubs, Jed Hoyer did announce Monday that we're definitely going to be sellers.
Oh.
But that's not as easy as it sounds, and I'll get into that when I get into the Cubs. But I was looking at the standings Sunday, and there's very few sellers that I see.
Yes.
Most teams are buyers because with now the wild card, you have 3 teams in the wild card. That is 12 of the 30 teams that there are slots for, which means that you've got all these other teams that may not be in it, but they're within striking distance. So you're going to see teams like the Rockies and the White Sox and
Marlins.
pardon me,
Marlins, Florida
Marlins.
Marlins.
Yeah, although the Marlins, I just turned the Marlins game up before we started this. They're beating the Orioles 4-1. So they just split 2 with the Mets. The Marlins.
Yeah.
I credit Skip Schumacher. He he keeps them competitive. They don't get blown out. Uh, they're a pitching defense team. There's not a whole lot of offense there, but he keeps them in ball games. And even though they've got a bad record, you know, but
They haven't quit. I've seen some teams that look like sometimes late in the game they quit, or they're not. I don't know. It just seems like they're going through the motions. You see teams summertime, you're 15 games back, and you're just kind of going through the motions. But Florida looks like they're still in there battling the best they can with what they got.
yeah, yeah. But when I think about it, just in our division, okay, the Cubs have stated they're going to be sellers, and I I'll get into this why I kind of agree with that. But the Reds, they need some bullpen help. The Pirates need at least one bat, probably two. Uh, the Cardinals need another bat somewhere.
Right-hander.
Unless Arenado and Goldschmidt start playing to the back of the baseball card, they need another bat in that lineup. Um, and then the Brewers are, I think they've got enough there that they should finish out the division. But then you go to the West, the Padres, um, they need a little bit of pitching too, and then you look at the Giants. They need some offensive help. They got Jorge Soler thinking that he was going to mash this year, and I don't even think he's going to get to 30 home runs, which is a lot. But they were hoping, this is going to be our first 30 home run guy. They haven't had one since Barry Bonds, 20 years. So you know, they need a bat. The Diamondbacks, we just played the Diamondbacks 3 over the weekend, and the Diamondbacks look pretty good, but the back end of the rotation isn't that great, and the bullpen doesn't impress me a whole lot. So they're looking for pitching. And then you go to the East, the Mets are in it. The Mets can use pitching. I mean, the Braves are injured, and the Braves always seem to come up with a trade to put themselves,
They sure do.
so, and they've also got chips to trade. Um, the Nationals are within striking distance. I don't think they're going to make it because they're so young, but maybe they pull off a trade. And then you go to the American League and you look, the Yankees are beat up. The Red Sox are in striking distance. Those are two teams that could benefit from a trade. The Orioles could benefit with another arm.
Starter.
You go to the Central. Cleveland always needs another bat. That's what they always need. They could use another bat, but their pitching is outstanding. The Royals, maybe another bat, but I like the Royals staff, and they're hanging in there. And then you go to the Twins, could use another arm. Even if you want to throw the Tigers in, that they're maybe within a little bit of striking distance, they have no offense at all. I mean, none. Just they got to rely on pitching every dadgum night. And then you go to the West. The Mariners have to have offense.
They have not. Yes.
And it's very tough to keep winning when you're a pitching only team. The Astros seem to be healthy. I don't see them making any big moves at this point. The Rangers, they could use a little starting pitching with their pitching being a little in disarray, because it always seems like someone from the Rangers is going down. So there's a lot of teams that could be buyers, but there's not a whole lot of sellers, which is going to work in the benefit of the teams who are going to sell because they can have a pretty good asking price and get a pretty good haul. Well, what do you think about the trading situation this year?
You're right. If you're a seller, you can make a haul. Last year, we had a horrible year, 71-91. And at the trading deadline, we moved a lot of guys that contracts were coming up. And I think we made some very good moves. And a lot of these guys are now in AAA or up with the club now. And they look good. And I think we made some deals that favored us. So if you're a seller, if the Cubs are selling, Like last year, I know Montgomery, he's a Boris guy. He wasn't going to resign. Hicks wanted to be a starter, and he did very well at first with San Francisco, but I think he's kind of came back down now. But Cabrera, um, and Flaherty. There was like five pitchers we traded last year. We didn't have much pitching. And Vince, that also shows you the need for pitching. The Dodgers look like they had two staffs, and now they're depleted. Everybody's hurt. They don't know when Walker Bueller's coming back and Kershaw, and they've got a lot of money. And if you guys are selling, I think somebody like Tyone or I know the nucleus, these young guys you have, they're not going anywhere. But Tyone might be able to get. I tell you what, if I was the Cardinals, I'd probably get Kyle Hendricks because we cannot beat Kyle Hendricks. That's a guy I would maybe take a flyer on right there. The Cardinals and Cubs, so usually teams don't trade within their own division. You don't see it as much as you used to. So, but yeah, I think the Cubs could come away smelling great and building something bigger for next year with the core guys you have right now. I've heard rumors of Bellinger. How many years did he sign for when he came back?
He's in the first of three.
First of three.
The problem is he the team has no options in this. He can decide after each year if he wants to stay in or opt out. Okay. So
yeah.
I've heard the rumors of Bellinger too.
Everybody.
It's going to take a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees who really don't operate this way anymore. It's going to take a team who doesn't mind throwing money around because he's a good player. He's not a $30 million a year player. He's hitting about 270. Of course, he's injured right now. And he's sitting at like 9 home runs. There's just not much pop in his bat. So I hope we do trade him. I'm sure we're going to have to eat some money because, my gosh, this contract got bad quick. And I would rather him hit 245 and be at 19 home runs than hit 270 and be at 9 home runs. He is supposed to be the dude in our lineup. And that's the biggest thing that's missing in our lineup. We don't have one guy who you say, holy crap, this guy can't beat us. We don't. And I had a discussion with Max. We're kind of jumping into Cubs right now, but I had a discussion with Max about trade scenarios. And he kept coming back with me, this guy being blocked here, this guy's being blocked here, that's I don't want to trade. I'll trade for prospects, but I want one trade to bring over a dude who's under control, Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's under control, who's on the market, who we can say, okay, even though we may not win this year, this is one badass in our lineup that every team has to say, oh, okay. Because we don't have that. We've got just a collection of nice players. Ian Happ is not a great player. He's a nice player. Seiya Suzuki is a nice player. Sure, they get hot. They can carry a team for a little bit, but, all in all, they're just nice players. We don't have the Rizzo. We don't have the Bryant. We don't have the Baez. We don't have that team anymore. And we've got nice players and Dansby Swanson.
That's right. Vince, it can change in a blink of an eye. 1 year, you're on top of the world. Last year, Bellinger, that was an MVP year. You couldn't get the guy out. And then this year, it goes completely the other way. Your team's up 1 year, they're down the next. We were down last year, and we're okay this year. And but things go so quick. And that we talked about this last week. That's how hard it is to hold excellence for a long time. These Hall of Famers, we just had the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and these guys played, 13, 20 years at this level that some guys don't even have for 1 year. And that's just it. Trading is a gamble. You don't know, you hope it works out for both teams, especially your team. But I think if you traded Bellinger up to Seattle, I don't know if they don't have any hitting, but you could probably get one of their top pitchers, especially if they're not going to keep them around. And adding that to your Imanaga and Steele, man, that'd be a tough three-headed monster right there.
Yeah,
But
I don't think Seattle's a good fit for him. He's not generating power in Wrigley with the 268 power alleys
that's
to go
true.
to Seattle, where it is very difficult to hit a home run.
It's big.
Yeah,
That's
I
true.
remember when I was growing up, Oscar Gamble had some great years for the Yankees and the Rangers and the White Sox. Power hitter, and then he went to San Diego, and in the '70s at that old um,
Jack Murphy
Jack
Stadium.
Murphy Stadium, it was almost impossible to hit a home run. And his home run total dipped to about, it was in single digits. And he said it's ridiculous. He went from, Yankee Stadium with that left field porch and old Comiskey where it was easy to pull the ball out to all of a sudden these fly balls that were going out 5, 6 rows in right field were suddenly caught before the warning track. So Bob Horner, when he came from Japan because he played for Atlanta, spent a year in Japan, went to St. Louis. That was his deal. He had power to the track, but he couldn't get it out of Busch Stadium.
It's a
And
tough
I mean,
stadium.
every now and then he could, but
Yeah.
when he was playing at the old Atlanta Stadium, which was called the launching pad because the ball flew out like crazy. And then he went to Japan where the parks were a little smaller, and suddenly he comes to St. Louis and you know, Bush Stadium at that time. I think center field at one time was like 414 feet.
It was huge. And
Yeah.
George Hendrick 1 year led the team with 18 home runs. And George hit more home runs than on other teams, but that was our top power hitter was George Hendrick. I think
Uh,
that's why he came in with that speed team because it's just such a big stadium.
I remember one year Hector Cruz led the team with like 12 or 14 home runs.
Oh, really? Did? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
That was the genius of Whitey. No, don't really need a power hitter. We just need guys who can run because there's
Yeah.
a lot of space to run here. But speaking of Hall of Fame, um, I was I'm I've spent way too much time in baseball groups, but I was in one of my baseball groups, and someone posted something to the effect, Todd Helton in the Hall of Fame, question mark. He played half his games at Coors. Okay, there's probably been there well over 1,000 players who played half their home games at Coors that had very forgettable careers. Yeah, it will help boost your numbers a little bit, but if you're a great hitter, yeah, you may have outstanding numbers at Coors, but Todd Helton could hit anywhere.
I agree.
So I did remind him there's been a lot of players who played in Coors who we can't remember because Coors is not a magic ticket to a Hall of Fame or an MVP or something like that. There's been there's been stadiums that have been offensive stadiums in their entire existence. The Polo Grounds down the line was 260. So if you could just hit a little pop up down the line,
It's out there.
it was out of there. Yeah, it went way out in center field over 500 feet, but if you could pull it down the line, you were going to have a lot of home runs. And we just talked about the old launching pad at Atlanta. Easy to hit home runs there. So there's always been stadiums that have been offensive friendly. Old Detroit Stadium, left-handers. Darrell Evans was 71 years old, still hitting 30 home runs there. So
Cincinnati.
yeah,
The great,
Cincinnati.
yeah, that ball flies out of there. I think it's humidity too, or something like that. But yeah, it flies out of there. I liked. Did you see the Hall of Fame inductions? It was they bring back. I think there was 56 Hall of Famers that showed up for that. The cities were represented. A lot of Minnesota people from Mauer were there. I saw that. Mauer's was very emotional and tearful. Leland was funny. I thought he was going to get tearful, but he just now they do. I think they try to limit them to 20-minute speech, 15 to 20-minute speech. Babe Ruth was in that first. Oh, there's the first group that got inducted to the Hall of Fame. Babe Ruth's Hall of Fame speech was 4 minutes long. You know, basically, hey, I'm Babe Ruth. I did it all. Thank you. Good night. That kind of thing. So Babe was the shortest Hall of Fame speech at 4 minutes, but it was kind of cool. And next year we've got a couple of people on that Hall of Fame that's going to get voted in. Ichiro is on the ballot. I think he's an easy first ballot guy. 3,000 hits, 10 Gold Gloves, 10 All-Star games. I mean, you can't beat that. And CC Sabathia will be on the thing for the first year. And a lot of awards, 251 wins, 161 losses, lifetime 374 ERA. I think he's got an excellent shot. Maybe not the first time, but we'll see. And Billy Wagner came just a few votes, I think 5 votes short of this year, and it's his 10th season, which is your last season on the ballot to be elected the traditional way. You can go on these special committees, might put you in. So I think Billy Wagner's got a good shot next year, but the teams this weekend wore a patch on the side of the hat, a Hall of Fame patch, which is pretty cool. Another piece of memorabilia for all you collectors out there. So they honored it, and it was really cool. And MLB Channel does a great job showing the inductions. And you've been there. I've never been to the Hall of Fame yet. I can't wait to go up there and see all that.
I think Marianello went there for the induction, didn't he?
Yes,
And
he was.
yeah,
Yes, he
I,
was.
I know he's posted stuff in the hall. So,
Oh yeah, I seen some pictures of him up there. Good for him. That
and well, he
guy.
lives in New York.
Well, that's true. Okay, he's got a little drive. Hey, Vince, I was looking at some first half stats and some players that's really caught my eye, and this is no surprise. But have you looked at Bobby Witt Jr.'s season? I see a few Royals games, but my gosh, this guy, I think he's got a shot. And we've got Kansas City in our heart. Um, I'll tell you a quick story. I went to the second game of the doubleheader against the Royals. And when I was walking out, I had my Cardinal hat, my Cardinal shirt, and everything. And this guy goes, "Hey, we beat you guys." And I said, "Yeah, maybe we'll get you next time." He goes, "It's okay, guy. It's okay. We've got the Chiefs and we got the Blues." He was trying to console me, but they just outplayed us that day. But I don't harbor any ill effects to the Royals fans. I'm just a baseball fan. But Bobby Witt Jr., it's good to see him in that city taking over, man. He's got a long contract with him. But Vince, he's just been unconscious. This is only his third season, and he just had his fourth straight 3-hit game. And I think Brett has 6 games with 3 hits. So he's up in rarefied air right now. His last 15 at bats since the All-Star break, he's got 12 hits. He almost hit the cycle last night, and he's hitting 341. He's got 18 home runs and stolen bases, 22 stolen bases. And I just think he's in the talk for the MVP. I think maybe you got Gunnar Henderson and Aaron Judge over there, but every category, and I'm not going to bore everybody with all the statistics, but he's in the top 5 in every single hitting category in the American League. So, sometimes we don't look back and enjoy a player until it's kind of over. But if you get a chance to see Bobby Witt Jr. or go out to Kansas City and see a game, he will not disappoint. He might be the fastest guy in baseball. From home to third. His when he goes around second, that shoulder is almost hitting the ground. So if you get a chance, check out Bobby Witt Jr. if the Royals are on TV.
If Judge doesn't hit 60, and Bobby Witt Jr. finishes strong, I think he wins the MVP.
That'd be great.
Henderson's in such a stacked lineup.
Yes.
Um, by the way, Gunnar Henderson looks just like Matthew McConaughey in the Dazed and Confused movie. Every time I see him, I think,
All right, all right,
all
all
right,
right.
all right, all right.
That's not fair to look like Matthew McConaughey and be that good. Well, Vince, that is the question. Is the MVP the guy that has the most gaudy stats, or the guy who's most valuable to his team, to their success? I think there's kind of a cross pollination there. There's something in both of those arguments. But if you're talking about most valuable to the team's success, I think it's, well, I don't know, Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt Jr. I don't know what the Yankees would do without Judge, and I don't know what the Royals would do without Witt.
Okay.
So, and they,
I look at it this way with Henderson. You take him out of the lineup, that's still a very potent lineup.
that's a great lineup.
Um, you take Judge out of the Yankee lineup, it becomes a little pedestrian. It's
Yeah,
because of all the injuries. Um, you take Bobby Witt Jr. out of the Kansas City lineup.
yeah.
There's,
It might be a
there's,
fourth place team.
yeah, it'd be very rough. So I don't know. Of course, I'm biased.
Me too.
One of my favorite players growing up was George Brett, and I did admire that he stayed in Kansas City, a small market, when he could have went anywhere to play. And George Brett, which is strange, he's a California guy, born and raised in California, uh, but he embraced Kansas City. He embraced that small market and became a national figure. On soap commercials and soda commercials, and he was everywhere. And Bobby Witt Jr. Signed that huge contract extension. I know the last few years he's got some power; he can opt out of it. Um, but I would like to see him uh, be there for the long haul. Much like, and this guy kind of goes under the radar because um, he's played on some really bad teams, although he's won a World Series championship late too. But Salvi Perez is going to finish his career as a Royal. Um,
Great
and
player.
he's got to be the second greatest Royal offensive player in the history of the team. Um, his longevity, his offense and his defense. He's not quite George Brett because George Brett was just a special player, but he's right there. You used to hear people say a lot of times, well, the second greatest Royal was Frank White. Frank White is not Salvi Perez. So
No, no, I like Frank White too, but yeah, Salvi Perez, he should have a statue or his number. One day we'll have his number retired out there too, with Brett and Dick Hauser. And I think there's one more out there. Maybe it's Frank White. Maybe it's Frank White's the other one.
White, I don't know.
Yeah, there's three of them I know out there.
Jamie Kirk, maybe.
Jamie Kirk. I thought you were going to go with the BB Richards right there. I
Steve
felt it coming.
McGrory.
Hey, Vince, I would say a statistic last week, and I didn't remember the player, but there is a player. It's so hard to get to the World Series. It's even harder to win the World Series. But there's one guy out there who's been on the last three World Champions. He's a lefty reliever, and his name is Will Smith.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and he's on Kansas City this year, which could he make it number 4 in a row? I don't know, but it's interesting to see. But it was a lefty, and
He
he
used to
played for.
close a few years ago. He was a closer.
Yeah, last year I don't think he pitched much in the World Series. He was with Rangers, and I think he was used sparingly. But it seems like the last few years it's less and less. But is that something? Astros, Braves, and Texas pitched a lot in the Astros series and 3 World Championships. And there's some great players who've never won a World Series. I think a poor Ernie Banks was so hard to get to the playoffs back then. And Mike Trout barely got to play in the playoffs, and Otani's never been there, but this year he could. But and then this guy, Will Smith, bless his heart, he's got 3 rings now in a row.
Yeah, and I
So
thought his career was over when he slapped Chris Rock.
was that him? That guy, man, how about that? Will Smith.
It's a
How about
bad
that?
joke.
And there was King of the Bikers. Remember Will Smith, who was in CC Rider? His name was William Smith. He was King of the Bikers, and he was in all the biker movies in the 60s and 70s. I don't know if you remember him.
The
He's
only
the guy.
movie I
He
can remember is CC Rider with Joe Namath.
Joe Namath, Welcome to and Anne Margaret. but he was also the guy who boxed Philo Bedlow and Any Which Way But Loose at the end, the big fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's William Smith.
Hank.
No, that was the Great Champion. There was a guy who maybe he was at the second one then, but there was a big biker and they were running together, and they had to be adversaries at the end. Everybody came in and bet on them. That's a crazy side note, but that's also William Smith. Vince.
Oh, this is not this is not related to baseball. Um, Everybody who watches this knows that I collect vinyl.
Yes.
When I was in grade school, there was an album out. It was a compilation album called Heavy Metal. It wasn't
Oh
heavy metal though, because I
no.
don't think there was a genre of heavy metal, but the album was called Heavy Metal. It was a two-album set, compilation album. It had like The Doors, Led Zeppelin, um, MC5,
Oh,
um, yes, just Jimi Hendrix, just a myriad of rock musicians from the late 60s, early 70s. I don't know how they got them all on this compilation album, but I had it when I was a kid, when I was in grade school, and I've wanted it so bad. I found a guy online who has it. So
oh.
I'm like over the moon. And he's trying to get me to get to take some of his other albums. I'm to a point now where I don't just buy anything. I search for what I want. And I have a lot of capitulation albums. I have almost all the KTEL albums,
Oh, I love those.
which are just terrible production. I mean, songs are cut off after 2.5 minutes, and the quality's not good. I got some Ronco albums that are capitulation albums, but this is the best one I've ever had.
Oh,
And it was like one of the earliest capitulation albums. And I can't believe in a few days it's going to be mine.
let it be in your little hands. All right, that sounds fantastic, man. Well, there was a heavy metal movie with John Candy. It was animated,
Yeah.
and uh, Don Felder and Cheap Trick, and I know there was a lot of people on that album too. And that was a great soundtrack to a movie right there. But no, I haven't heard of your heavy metal before. Yeah,
I,
show it
I'll,
off next week if it's in
yeah, I'll
there.
show it off next week, but yeah, I'm
Very good.
very charged about that. Um,
The,
any other general news?
the schedules for 2025 have come out. They've already done the schedules. I don't remember it ever coming out this early. And the season next year will start with the Dodgers and the Cubs in
Sure.
Tokyo Dome. And I think that's going to be great for baseball. I know it's a little rough on the team. You fly over there, you do a lot of press and red carpet stuff, and then you got to fly all the way back. And they give you a few days off, but it's got to be tough on the body, traveling all that way, playing baseball. I tell you what, the Japanese fans love the MLB, and you guys have two other people from Japan, and the Dodgers have two as of this moment. So that'll be great homecoming for them to play in front of their family and friends. And I'm excited, but you have to get up like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the game,
Oh,
don't
I
you?
will.
Yeah, I know you will. You'll be up there bright and early. But in the schedule, they have a thing called rivalry weekend. And in that weekend, by the way, the Cardinals open against the Twins. I just want to throw that out there. But rivalry weekend, May 16th, 17th, and 18th, it will be the Cardinals and the Royals in Kansas City, and the White Sox and the Cubs in Chicago. The Cardinals and Cubs, our Cardinals and Royals we have a friendly rivalry, but I think that White Sox Cub rivalry that gets a little intense sometimes. Good rivalry there.
Yeah, it's a completely different animal. The Cub fans are looked at as the more affluent white collar fans. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm very affluent white collar. So, um, whereas the White Sox fans, that blue collar, gritty type fan, um, and so within the city, it's a bigger rivalry than the Cardinals Cubs, and I don't think people from St. Louis like to hear this, but our biggest rival in the division, and it's been this way for a few years now, is actually the Brewers.
Oh, yes.
There is just hatred between the two teams. The Cardinal Cub rivalry is still pretty friendly. Even when we played in the playoffs, it was still pretty friendly. The Brewers Cubs, if they meet in the playoffs, it can get pretty hairy. So,
Yeah. Well, the season ends September 28th, and there's a three-game series with the Cardinals and Cubs. We're ending the season next year versus each other, and that's the way it should be. That will be great, especially if it comes down to the final weekend or a final playoff spot or the division title. That will be great. And I believe it's in St. Louis. No, it's in Chicago. It's in Chicago. And one last thing, our friends over at I wrote the name at the hobby shop in Caledonia. They have had some really neat events lately. They had a card opening thing on Facebook where they had 30 spots and it cost $35 to buy a spot. And then they did a computer generated thing and you got a team. I got the San Francisco Giants. So every time they opened a pack of cards, I got the Giant card. If it was an autograph card, it was a classic card, a one of one, and it was pretty cool and exciting to see these cards getting opened and stuff like that. And then they had a duck race for this special box of cards with only four cards in it that all had like pieces of bats and they were all autographed and everything. And everybody bought chances at that. And the winner of the duck race got the box and he opened that on the show too. So that oh, a boy's dream hobby shop in
yeah,
Caledonia. It's really cool, and they're doing a lot of neat things. They're having an NFL things Thursday where they're opening up. People buy spots and they're opening up things. And I think somebody's getting an NFL signed NFL jersey on Thursday on Facebook. So check it out, and they do really good stuff there. And I will show one thing that I got there, and I'm pretty proud of this. I invested. I got a graded 10 out of 10 Paul Skeens card.
wow.
Whoa. How about that? And this card has went up three times in value since it came out this year. So how about that? So anyway, if you get a chance, go down there. Have fun. And that's it for me for local baseball this week in baseball kind of thing.
What's going on in Cardinal land?
Well, Cardinal land. We signed the first our number one draft choice. Uh, so that's good news. You know, every once in a while you hear a team drafting a guy and they don't sign him. So we got that. Big news in Cardinal land. Paul Goldschmidt has struggled so mightily this year. They have moved him down to the seventh spot. And I give Paul a lot of credit. I think he knows he's struggling. I think he's working as hard as he can. But this year, everything's just been a struggle. So he's moved from the third spot down to the seventh spot. And I'll talk more into that a little bit later. Tommy Edman, everybody's talking about the Cardinals need a right-handed bat. Well, Tommy Edman is a switch hitter. I thought it might be Jordan Walker, but they were talking like he's not coming up this year. He's going to stay down there and keep working, and he'll hopefully make the team coming out of spring training. But Tommy Edman played 4 games and was 4 for 14, 2 walks, 4 RBIs, and then he he had a right ankle injury and missed some games. So this guy just can't stay healthy this year. He's back playing again now. We hope we see him sooner than later, but it'd be great to have him come up and play. And then Steven Matz, who we were hoping could be a part of the team, it doesn't look like he's going to come back this year either. A lot of injuries. But I tell you what, Palante, who has taken over the fifth spot in the rotation. We've had 3 double hitters in the last 10 games. And Vince, you know, that takes a toll on your team. You're starting guys that normally aren't starters and you're hanging in there. And we're 3-3 in these 3 double hitters we've had. So not too bad, but Palante has done a really good job and earned that fifth spot. Now, do we need another starter? Yes, we do, because if by chance we do get in the playoffs, Sonny Gray, I'm okay with in the first spot, but the other guys, I don't see we really have a true number 2. We have a bunch of 3s and 4s. So I like to see us get somebody, but if the Cardinals make any trades at all, it's going to be someone that we'll have for a couple more years, not just a rental. So we may go down the line with what we got in the bullpen. Knowing the Cardinals, they might get a veteran or just go with the young guys, Graceffo and some of these other guys, and just try to see what we got. Because I don't think we're going to trade. There's certain players I know we're not going to. Well, I'd be surprised if we trade. Let me put it that way. But Friday night, of course, we had a rain out. That's been going a lot on in St. Louis. We had a lot of rain, a lot of flooding and everything. But Saturday, we got to a double hitter, and we're playing the Atlanta Braves coming out of the All-Star break. And in the first game, we went 10 innings and we were winning 2-0. And in the bottom of the eighth, they hit a home run. It goes to extra innings and we lose. 3-2 against the Braves. It looked like we kind of had them. I didn't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but I was hoping we could get that win. But the Braves are a good team. They just keep fighting. They're injured, but they keep coming. But Kyle Gibson pitched 6 2/3 and only gave up 1 run. He had a quality start, pitched very good. Fernandez gave up the run, and he's getting used more in high quality or high impact spots, and he's done a very good job. Although this time he did give up the home run to tie the game, and Kyle Gibson just left the game. I'm with Ollie. I would have took Kyle out then. It just looks like maybe his pitch, he was losing a little ump on his pitches, but that's baseball for you. You take him out of the game, and the reliever gives up a run, and then you go to the extra innings and you lose it. Rosario hit the home run to tie the game up in the bottom of the eighth, so we were so close to getting there, but we lost that one. But the second game, 9-5, the Cardinals win, and Sonny Gray was not one of Sonny's best starts, but he stayed in there and pitched, and he ended up going 7 innings, saving the bullpen, and he did give up 5 earned runs. He's got a 3.54 ERA for a guy. That's a little high than I thought he would have at this point in the season, but he won his 10th game. And Lay came in and pitched the 2 innings in relief, saved our big studs in the bullpen, and went 2 innings and 2 strikeouts. Gorman hit his 18th home run. We hit a lot of home. Gorman and Donovan hit home runs, and Ciani stole 2 bases, and Newbar stole one. So I like the way we're running on some hit and runs and bunting and stealing bases, and then we run into some home runs. Sometimes we have 1 to 3 home runs a game. We've got a good offense and we got a good defense. If the pitching could just stay strong and we don't wear out our bullpen, I think we'll be okay. In that game, Wynn had 2 hits, Burleson 3, Contreras 3, and Goldie he was 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts, and that's the game that decided to move him down in the 7th spot. And the Braves are having trouble. They need pitching help too. They've got a lot of guys hurt. And Sunday was the rubber game. We won 6-2. Miles Michaelis pitched very good. He went 6 innings with 2 earned runs, high 502, but that's been coming down. He's 8-8 now. And we used Fernandez, Kittredge, and Helsley in the bullpen. Burleson and Ciani had 2 hits. And I tell you what, Ciani, that kid in center field's played top-notch defense, and he's hitting 235 now, and he's come a long way. He was hitting like 189 for a while, and I like that kid Ciani. He works hard. He's usually batting 9th in the lineup, but he's got it up to 235, and I think the league average is only like 245. So he's right around the league average right now. We hit a lot of home runs, and Goldie's first at bat in the 7th spot, he hits a home run, and he was 1 for 4. He's only hitting 225, but a home run, we'll take it. And then Burleson had a home run, Newbar and Contreras, and Ciani stole another base. And in that game, poor Atlanta, I don't like to see anybody get hurt, but in that game, Ciani stole second, and Ozzy Albus got hurt, and he's going to be out, I think, 6 weeks. And that's just another injury. And, the Braves are the team that's in front of us for that in that first wild card, and we're the second wild card, and I think the Mets are the third, but we're all bunched in there together. Braves have a little advantage, so it might be tough for Atlanta to hold on to that spot. I don't see them catching Philadelphia, who's red hot. And finally, Monday, we played Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's been red hot. We played a great game. Palante pitched, went 6 innings, 1 earned run, but he was on the ropes the whole game. I mean, 6 innings, 1 earned run is great, but every other inning they had men on scoring position, and we would just get out of it. A great defensive play or a big strikeout or something. And finally, it went to the bull, and we did like we always do. We worked on their pitcher. We got him out of the game. It was bullpen versus bullpen, but this time we didn't get the win, and we lost 2-1. But in that game, Gorman hit a shot down the line and it hit the fair pole and it just made a loud thud. And that was our only run in the game. And Chapman got the win. And he's been a big part of that team. I always thought when they got Chapman on Pittsburgh, he would just be a guy that they would hold on to and might move at the trading deadline for a team that's really in it. But he's done a good job this year. And I think he's still got a lot of gas in the tank. And he's been a big part of their bullpen. So here we are. It's Tuesday night. We're going against Paul Skeens. And when I came in here, it was in the third inning, 0-0. And Lance Lynn was pitching and doing a good job. And I think he's one strikeout away from 2,000. So come on, Cardinals. It's going to be tough. And we got 2 more games in Pittsburgh, day off, and then we come home against the Nationals and the Rangers. So that's what next week looks like, Vince.
You're
and
up
that's
1-0 in the 7th.
Woo! Hey.
Let's see. You've got 2 hits.
That's Cardinal baseball right there.
Skeens is 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, and he gave up a solo shot to Arenado.
Oh,
So,
but it's not over. Every game is a nail biter. We ought to be ready. If we make the playoffs, we should be prepared for these intense, close games because we've played them all year long.
yeah. Well, in Cup news, I always like to start with the transactions because we have like this conveyor belt going to the IL, to the minor leagues, to the major leagues, back to the IL. Just
a mash unit.
some good news. Adbert Alzolay, who's been out, I guess since the end of April, he's been sent to the minors for rehab. I hope that we see him, being that we are going to be sellers. I want to see what he's going to look like. Was the Adbert Alzolay that we had the last 2 years the real Adbert Alzolay, or was this terrible disaster that we saw in April the real Adbert Alzolay? So he is sent to the minors for rehab. So if he looks good this year, then maybe we can count on him next year. Mike Talkman, who's been on the IL for a long time, he's off the IL. Jesus Tinoco, we purchased him from the minors. And we also, Jordan Wicks, who was our 5th starter, started the year as our 5th starter, having a pretty good year. But he's been out for a long time. He's been transferred to the 60-day IL, so he's out for the season. Canario was sent back down. Wisniewski hurt himself. He's in the 15-day IL. So we called up Hunter Biggie. Then we also got Julian Merriweather off the 60-day IL. So finally, he was one of our mainstays last year. And he's pitched once this year, or pitched once since he's been back, and he looked like his old self. So awesome. And so after Hunter Biggie came and pitched a scoreless inning, we sent him right back down. And we transferred Luke Little to the 60-day IL, so his season's over. He's put together a really good rookie season. He had some trouble with throwing strikes for the first half of his time with a big league club, but then he really settled in and became a great person in our bullpen. We have had a terrible bullpen, but a lot of people don't realize since I think the 26th of June, the bullpen ERA is close to 1, which is easily in that time period the best ERA in Major League Baseball. So the bullpen ironed itself out, but it's probably a little too late. And being we are going to be sellers, I want to look at some trade possibilities. First of all, Happ and Suzuki would be prime trade candidates. They both have no trade clauses in their contract. Doesn't mean they can't be traded. I don't think Happ wants to leave Chicago. His wife is from Arlington Heights. They have a house there. There's a reason players say I want a no trade clause, and that's the reason. I want to put roots here. And both he and Suzuki have that. I could see Suzuki waiving his no trade clause because he doesn't like have roots in the States. He's from Japan. where his wife lives. So maybe it doesn't matter to him so much. But they both have no trade clauses in their contract. Bellinger, as I said earlier, he's not living up to that contract. The way that we can get rid of Bellinger is if there's a team that is desperate that says we need an outfielder to take us over the top, or we've had an injury, like the Yankees or the Braves, and they say, okay, we will pay half the contract, you pay the other half or something. Then that would free up some money for us, and we could get that, at least some of that contract off of our back. But he's out with a broken finger, so he's a mystery. He may not be back till after the trade deadline, so I'm not sure that he's going to be a good trade candidate. Morel, yeah, I've heard his name bannered around in trade, but you'd be selling low at this point. He's batting 200. Yeah, he's got pop and everything, but he's batting 200. He is still has the third worst luck in baseball as far as batted balls. He should not be hitting 200. But if you get rid of him now, you're going to sell him low. The third base experiment hasn't worked out. He is not a third baseman. He is a designated hitter, and I'm okay with that. So if we're blown away with something, yeah, but I just think right now his trade value is too low for us to get rid of. I've heard Steele's name bannered. If we get rid of Steele, I will go to Wrigley and I will spray paint graffiti on the outfield wall. Why would we get rid of this guy? Yeah, we can get a haul for him, but that is an anchor to your pitching staff that doesn't come around this long. We've had this guy in our organization for over 10 years. He's put it together. He needs to be a Chicago Cub during his prime, and he's right in his prime. So that leaves Smiley, Neris, Hendricks, Leiter Jr. I expect all four of those to be traded. Smiley has pitched really good out of the bullpen. Neris, even though he drives me nuts with a lot of walks, he's actually settled down and had his ERA is under 4. It's like 3.7. And he's got big game experience in the playoffs, so I see him being an attractive piece for someone to get. Leiter Jr. also seems to be throwing very well. Hendricks is hit or miss, but I'm sure there's teams out there that will take a flyer on him that says, okay, I know his ERA is above 6. Now, since he was put back in the rotation after that horrible start, his ERA has been about 4.5. So he is pitching better. His ERA against the Cardinals is like -8. He's so good. So
Kicks our butt.
So I do see probably 3 or 4 of them going. Tyone definitely going. Everybody needs pitching. Everybody needs more pitching. It's $13 million a year. You've got him for 3 more years. Well, this year and 2 more years. That's where we can actually get something of value in return. So I love Tyone. I hated him last year. This year, he has been great. He's been the pitcher I thought he'd be. This year, he's been great. But at this point, I think we can get a good haul for him. And then there is Nico Horner.
Your Google Home isn't set up yet. To get started, download the Google Home app on a phone or tablet.
I don't know why this does this to me about once a month, but anyway, Horner, he signed a contract extension, so he's under club control for I think 4 more years. Gold Glove second baseman. He is a bat the ball guy. He doesn't strike out much. He steals bases. He is a great candidate to get to trade because we do have Matt Shaw coming up, who is going to probably be our third baseman. But this is what I like. And this is a discussion I had with Max. We package Horner and one of our prospects, like a Alcantara. We package them to the Blue Jays for Pedro Guerrero Jr. because they are not going to sign him, and Jensen, who is their backup catcher, and that would solve our catching problem. We could put Guerrero on first base. We could move Bush to second base. That's his natural position. And we could have Matt Shaw at third base and Morels our DH. That would solve a lot of issues. That's not really selling. We're buying Guerrero, we're buying a catcher, but we're not necessarily buying them for this year. We're buying them for the long haul. Pedro Guerrero Jr., with his personality and his talent, he would own Chicago like Sammy did. He would absolutely own the town.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You said Pedro.
Pedro, yeah. Oh, Pedro.
We know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Vladimir Vladdy. Okay.
Yeah.
He would own the town.
Oh, he would.
So I really like that kind of a trade. If we're going to get rid of Horner, I don't want prospects. We need a stud. That's what we are missing in this lineup. We are missing that guy who teams say, whoa, you had him with Goldschmidt, kind of falling off the table. Arenado, and these guys are starting to wane a little bit.
Yeah.
You have to have a stud in your lineup like that in order to compete, and we just don't have that. Guerrero Jr. fits that. So I would like to see us, if we're going to sell, I'd like to see us get rid of the parts that will give us some value with some prospects. But I would really like to see us pick up something for Nico, because he and Tyon are our best trade candidates. And I'm telling you, Toronto has no interest in Jameson Tyon, but they have interest in a Gold Glove second baseman and a 6'6" stud outfielder in Double-A who can hit the cover off the ball. So
yeah, I like that trade for both teams.
I do too. That's why I want to be general manager.
Yeah.
We went 2-2 this week after the All-Star break. Our first game Friday, we lost to Arizona 5-2. Only bright spot, Nico had 3 hits. And Steele, this was his first clunker in many starts, 4 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 5 runs, all 5 earned, 6 strikeouts. We lost 5-2. Arizona looked good. Arizona looks like the team that made a move last year this time of the year, and maybe they're going to do that. So Saturday, we play Arizona again. We lose 3-0. There was nothing to talk about on the offense. We only had 4 hits, but Amaya did have 2. Hendricks started the game, pitched, pedestrian, 5 innings, 3 runs. But so we come out after that sweep of the Orioles and that split St. Louis. We come out losing the first 2 games to Arizona. On Sunday, we did salvage the last game 2-1. Suzuki did have an RBI. We only had 4 hits. We were down 1-0, and then we scored a run in the 9th to tie it, and then in the 10th we scored the winning run. Imanaga proved to be the stud that he is. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 10 Ks. Neris came in and he got the win by pitching the 10th. And then last night we played Milwaukee. We proved to Milwaukee that we're not going to be pushed over yet. We went 3-1. Bush had a couple of hits, Happ hit a home run, Swanson a couple of hits. Miguel Amaya, who is hitting well under 200 for a lot of the season, has been red hot. He's 11 for his last 18 going into tonight. He was 1 for 1 last night with 2 walks. He's got his average all the way up to 221. Now, if he wakes up behind the plate and starts becoming better defensively, I'm okay with that. But it seems like once we got Tomas Nido and he started playing a lot, Miguel kind of woke up, and I knew they took him aside and they worked on his offense and they've worked on his defense too. So hopefully that's something that's going to
continue,
spark him into becoming a much better player. The thing about last night's game, it was weird. Assad pitched 3 1/3 innings, only gave up 1 hit, but he walked 6 batters.
Ooh.
And you talked about Palante being in trouble. Assad gets himself in a lot of trouble. What I do like about Assad, I can't stand the walks, but Assad seems to come up with the big pitch when he needs to. And when you got a guy who's on the ropes who can make that big pitch, that is kind of neat. But he was on a 75 pitch limit, and he hit that because of all the walks. And so then Smiley, Miller, Leiter Jr., Porter Hodge, and Neris came in and didn't give up anything. And Neris got his 14th save. So that's Cub news. I would much rather be in a pennant race, but I am realistic. We could probably pick up a few things and maybe squeak into the playoffs. We're just not quite there yet. I would rather see us take one more year, try to acquire a little more talent, and let this team become these young players, the PCAs, the Morels, let these guys get another year under their belt, more experience, and we'll go from there.
I like that Michael Bush guy you have at first base too. I think he's going to be an all-star type player.
Yeah, that's why being second base is his natural position. I would love to see Vladdy come over here first, Bush at second, and Matt Shaw see what he's got at third. And if he doesn't have anything there, we'll see what else we do. But I do like that.
You know, Vladdy came into the league. He was a third baseman. I'm just saying he's probably a better first baseman, but he did play third base. I think that first season he was up in the bigs, and then they moved him over to first base. So, you know.
But we've already got a third baseman that can't field. So.
Okay. All right. So much for that idea.
You know what third baseman can field?
He fields anywhere you put him. Jeremy Connor.
Yeah, and he plays with a pair of pliers. It's just awesome.
He's the man.
Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. We're going to spotlight a few players. I'm going to spotlight Mark Pryor, and you're going to spotlight Gleason, correct?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
I want to hear about Mark Pryor. I want to hear your recollections on him.
Okay. Mark Pryor was Paul Skeens 20 years ago. That's what you need to know. He was Paul Skeens 20 years ago. He's currently the pitching coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers and is generally looked at as one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. Mark Pryor had a career record of 42-29, a 3.51 ERA. And a lot of people do not remember Mark Pryor because his career was like Mark Fidrich. It was poof, and then it was over. Mark Pryor, he worked with Tom House when he was in high school. Tom House, former major league player who is known for what?
Throwing the football. The pitchers threw footballs. Plus, he also gave up Hank Aaron, or he caught the ball. Hank Aaron hit the. He caught it in the bullpen. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, House had a business where he would tutor young pitchers. He would use computer analysis to try to determine what their ideal pitching motion was. And he worked with Pryor on his delivery and prescribed the detailed workout regimen, which the pitcher would continue to utilize as his career advanced. Now, ESPN said that Mark Pryor had perfect mechanics. We now know he did not, okay? His pitching style was an inverted W, and people don't understand what, when they hear, what does it mean when a pitcher throws an inverted W, okay? You pitch the ball, your arm is above your elbow, you can go back and you can torque forward. Boom. When a pitcher pitches with an inverted W, before he throws, his throwing motion starts here. And I can't get my elbows that high, but he's got the ball in his arm, but his elbow is way above his arm. And so you can't pitch like that. So in your wind up motion, you've got to torque your arm up and then throw. Now, this is not an easy thing to do, and it puts a lot of stress on the arm. We know that now, but he was pitching with this inverted W, and at the time people were saying he's got perfect form. Well, now we know nobody wants to pitch that way. And the problem was when they realized this was his issue, he had problems because he had pitched that way. He had been trained that way since he was in high school. He had problems learning how to throw without doing the inverted W because that's what you do. It's muscle memory. So he was born in 1980 in San Diego, very athletic family. His father played college football for Vanderbilt. And he had two older brothers that were great athletes, and they played football, and he was a baseball stud. And so his freshman year, he went to Vanderbilt, and then he later transferred to Southern California, USC, and that's where he became a stud. And he won the Golden Spikes Award, and I think it was 2001, he won the Golden Spikes Award. So he was the pitcher that everybody wanted. So in 2001, he was the top consensus player. The Cubs had the second pick right behind the Twins. And guess who the Twins picked number one?
Mauer? Was that Mauer?
Joe Mauer. And the reason the Twins picked Mauer over Pryor is because Mauer's from Minnesota. He was the second. He was consensus. He's the second best player, but that's how Pryor fell into our laps. So at the time we signed in 2001, we signed him to a $10.5 million contract signing bonus. That was the highest signing bonus for 8 years until Steven Strasburg broke that in 2009. So for 8 years, he had the record for the highest signing bonus. And he only started 9 games in the minors. The Cubs called him up in 2002 as 21-year-old rookie. And his first year, he pitched really well. He finished his rookie campaign with a 6-6 record with a 3.32 ERA, but he had 147 strikeouts in 116 innings. And he finished 7th in Rookie of the Year. Can you believe with those numbers he finished 7th? So
yeah, I can't believe that must have been a heck of a class.
now we had a stud pitcher already in Kerry Wood.
Yes, sir.
And we know we have Kerry Wood. We have this young guy who's looking like he is every bit of the pitcher they say is. And they kind of called them Thunder and Lightning. And I heard it described, I think Peter Kirchin described it this way. Pryor has electric stuff. Wood has violent stuff. And teams did not want to face those two back and forth. That year, also emerging, was a guy who was throwing harder than both of them, throwing at 100 miles an hour, Carlos Zambrano. We also had Matt Clement that was really good. So we had 4 great pitchers on that 2003 season. So Pryor is having a great season, and he's made the All-Star team along with Wood. And then in a game against the Braves on July 11th, he collided on the field with Marcus Giles, and so he couldn't go to the All-Star game, and he was put on the shelf for a while. But he came back, and he finished out the 2003 season. And George Vesey compared Wood and Pryor to other great twosomes like Lawrence Van Loo Burdette, Randy Johnson, and Kurt Schilling. So we thought we were going to have great pitch. We thought in 2003 this is the start of a dynasty, and it's going to be based on pitching this time. So during that 2003 season, Pryor averaged 113.4 pitches per start in the regular season. This is why young pitchers like Paul Skeens are on pitch counts and why they don't finish out no hitters past the 7th. The number rose in September. He was throwing 126 pitches per outing. And when he got to the playoffs, he was pitching 122 pitches per outing. Nobody throws that many pitches these days, but he was averaging that going down the stretch, a 21-year-old arm. The Cubs finished with 88 wins. We won the Central Division. We took care of the Braves, and then we played the Marlins in the 2003 World Series. Pryor was on the mound game 6, cruising with a 3-0 lead in the 7th inning with 1 out. And then I don't like to call it the Bartman incident. I like to call it the Moises Alou throws a fit incident. And we lost that game after giving up 8 runs in that inning, and we were just toast after that. So Pryor finished 3rd in Cy Young in 2003, had an 18-6 record, a 2.43 ERA, and which was 3rd in the National League. And he had 245 strikeouts, and that was second to his teammate Kerry Wood, who had 266 strikeouts. So he had a heck of a year, and we just thought, oh, this is how it's going to be. You know, we got this great pitcher. You know, we've got the next Koufax. Well, when the 2004 season started, he had an Achilles tendon injury and elbow soreness, so he missed the first 2 months. 2004, the Cubs fell apart. He finished with a 6-4 record with a 4.02 ERA in 21 starts. He did strike out 139 in 118 innings. At the start of 2005, he had elbow inflammation that put him on the disabled list, and he was activated April 12th. He started with his first 3 starts, winning all 3 games with an ERA under 2, and then he's playing in his 4th game against the Rockies, and Brad Hopp hit a line drive at 117 miles an hour, and it hit his right pitching elbow and gave him a compression fracture. So on the DL, he went again. So he finished the 2005 season with an 11-7 record in 27 starts. He did strike out 188 in 166 innings. So he had a decent year. And then in 2005, he started that was 2005. In 2006, he started the season on the disabled list. And this time it was because of a right strain on his shoulder. And he finished 2006 season with a 1-6 record, a 7.22 ERA in 9 starts, and his career was virtually over. So that's why we have pitch labs now, and that's why Tom House no longer teaches the inverted W. It's a cautionary tale about young pitchers. You don't want to pitch them that much. Their arms aren't completely developed. And one thing that people don't take into consideration, when you and I were growing up and we played Little League Baseball, we would play, 16 games in a summer?
Yeah, 16.
If you had, let's say you had a 3-man starting rotation, okay? So everybody pitched 5 games, started 5 games, okay? And that would probably be about once every week and a half you'd start a game, because you usually had games twice, maybe a game on Saturday, but you didn't play that much. And then after your season was over, they put together an all-star team, and that represented, like where I grew up, it represented East Alton, and we would play another team. And that was actually the first round of the Little League World Series tournament.
Yes.
So I can tell people I played in the Little League World Series tournament. Got knocked out first game, but played it. So, but even if you made it to Williamsport, you still didn't pitch that much. Now, high school, what's the statistic I saw that like 90% of Tommy John surgeries are not high school students. This is why, because now you have traveling teams. we had Scott Throneberry on a few months ago, and he talked about what his sons go through, and they're playing baseball all the time. In the winter, they will go south and play tournaments in Florida and stuff like that. You have traveling teams in the summer that can play 80, 85 games. Okay, if you have a four-man rotation, how many times are you pitching? You're starting 20 games. So then you have high school ball on top of that. Then you have maybe Legion ball or the traveling team. Pitchers are just pitching so much more at a younger age that when they get to the major leagues, they have to be babied because they don't know how much is left in that arm, and they want to max out the potential there. And you look at Steven Strasburg, who was Mark Pryor after Mark Pryor, and he's had a decent career, but it was shortened because of all those pitches that he threw growing up that we didn't pitch, that we didn't have to do. And when there's only so many pitches you have in your arm, we have stuff that breaks down.
Oh yeah.
And when you're shooting that as a teenager from the ages of 14 through college, that's why you need to kind of keep these guys on a pitch count and say, for the better of their career, we got to pull you after 7, even though you got a no-hitter. And Mark Pryor is probably the poster child of cautionary tales. Beware of pitching these guys too much, because it wasn't like in days gone by where they didn't play that much baseball. They're playing all the time. They're pitching a lot more, and the arm only has so many pitches in it.
Yeah.
So that's my Mark Pryor spotlight and my soapbox about pitching.
2003, I just remember Wood and Pryor, and I thought you guys had Koufax and Drysdale, and this was going to go on for the next 10 years. And man, they were just overwhelming. And I'll be honest with you, if I had a son that was had a shot to play college ball or go to the minors, I'd probably send him to the minors, because in college ball, the ultimate goal is to win, and in the pros, it's to get better and move up. And I just kind of think they maybe watch over you a little closer, and it's more of a long term and a financial they put into you, and they want to have you come along. And that's why as fans we get a little we get in a hurry. Like Tink Hintz is down at Springfield, and everybody's like, oh, Tink Hintz is coming, but he needs to work on some stuff. A lot of young guys come up and they just have trouble throwing strikes. So if everything goes accordingly, he'll be here before we know it. But Mark Pryor, heck of a pitcher, and gave Cardinals fans a lot of nightmares here in St. Louis when he pitched.
And looking at the Cubs' top pitching prospect, Cade Horton, one of the things that's exciting about him is he hasn't pitched that much. He was a two-way player, and he was not a very good pitcher until his last year in college. Was it a slider he learned? One of his great out pitch. I haven't seen him pitch for a few months and I can't remember. But his out pitch he has now, he just learned that his last year of college, right at the College World Series. So even a senior year of college, his ERA was like in the 4s. But once he learned this pitch, it was like, whoa, this is a major prospect. So.
Wow, very good. Well, I'm going to do my player, and my player is Bill Greason. And Bill Greason's a name I seen in the record books, but I really didn't know much about. And Vince, this is really more about a life lived, and it's just a phenomenal story. Bill was born in Atlanta, Georgia, September 3rd, 1924, and he's coming up on his 100th birthday. Now, right there, that's an incredible story. This man is very close to being 100 years old. When he was born, he grew up on a street, and across the street, his neighbor was Martin Luther King. What a story. Now that's phenomenal right there. 99 years and 10 months, and you live next to Martin Luther King. That's a great story.
Yeah.
But he served in the United States Marines in World War II. And this is when they were integrating the African Americans into the Marine Corps. And he was one of the first African American Marines. And he fought from 1943 to 1945. And he fought, one of his battles was at Iwo Jima. And that's just, one of the bloodiest battles in American history. And he's devoted his life. He said, Lord, if you get me out of this, I will devote my life to you. And so he survived these battles and came home, and he played minor league baseball. He went into the Negro League, and he played for the Birmingham Black Barons and became really good friends with Willie Mays. That's a great story. His roommate was Willie Mays. They became great friends, and he thinks the world of Willie Mays. So that's a great story. He goes and then he played, let me see, I've got my stats here. He played from 1948 to 1951 in the Negro Leagues, and he was an all-star in 1949. Now, it's hard enough to get to play professional baseball, but he did that. All right. So in 1951 to 1952, he goes back in the Marines and fights in Korea. What a story. He comes back and he gets picked by the Cardinals to come to the minor leagues. And in 1954, he plays a few games with the Cardinals. He goes 3-3 with a 4.62 ERA and has 36 strikeouts. But he made it to the pros. And what a story, just to get to the pros and being after he's fought in 2 wars and played in the Negro Leagues. So that's incredible. He ended up playing 6 years in the minor leagues, and he had a lifetime career of 78 and 62. He becomes a member of the First Street Baptist Church in Alabama, and that church gets burned down by the Ku Klux Klan in September 15th, 1963. Which is a horrible story, but that's another piece of this man's story, but that didn't stop him. He went to college, became a preacher, and has been the pastor of at Birmingham Bethel Church, where he preaches to this day, and he's 99 years old, and he preached at Willie Mays' funeral. So I just had to shine a spotlight on Bill Greason. What a story, what a life. And I didn't know all of this until I got reading about him. But that's really all I got to say about him. What a story, and I hope we're celebrating his 100th birthday here real soon.
Yeah, a couple things. I've read a few books on the Battle of Iwo Jima, and it's amazing anybody got out of there alive, because we've seen the like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
That opening scene of what it was like to storm Normandy. And they also have that in what was the movie? So
I don't know. There's
the Clint Eastwood movie. He made one that was from the perspective of the Japanese soldiers and one from the perspective of the American soldiers. I think the Japanese soldier was called Letters from Iwo Jima, but I don't remember.
oh.
Flags of Our Fathers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've
Yeah.
not seen that.
Yeah, it does a great job, just like Saving Private Ryan. It does a great job of showing how most of them didn't even
Brutal.
make it to shore, and when you made it to shore, they were just picking you off. It was
Oh,
yeah.
what a hero. This guy, I tell you what, he lived a life. So many pieces of that puzzle and so many highlights. I just, what a hero this guy is.
Yeah,
So,
he gave
man,
great interviews at the game in Birmingham that the Cardinals and Giants played.
he reminded me of Buck O'Neill. If you ever remember, Buck O'Neill was
Gosh, Buck was the greatest.
he was the greatest, the manager of the Kansas City Monarchs, and just a personality, and just almost like you were at a revival when you got to hear him speak. And Bill Greason's sort of like that too.
Found Ernie Banks, Buck O'Neill.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
JJ, I'm opening up Topps 1989. I can feel the shattered gum in
Yeah.
there. What do you got?
I have Heritage cards, 2024. It's the players today, but they make them look like 1974 card or
All right.
75. So right there.
Well, let's watch this.
How many Hall of Famers you predicting? How many Hall of Famers you're getting?
I will say I'm gonna go two. There's the gum. So all right, I've got two Hall of Famers. That's what I'm saying. First card, former Met, former Expo, good player, Cubbie Brooks.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about Hubie Brooks. I think he was a Met too.
One of you Arkies.
I didn't know that.
Played in the World Series for both the Padres and the Mets. Kevin McReynolds.
Oh yes, an Arky.
For the Orioles, we have Rick Shue.
Don't remember
Not
him.
remember him.
No.
Oh, I remember this guy. For the Rangers, Scott Fletcher.
Oh yes, very good utility man.
Yeah, started his career in '81 with the Cubs. Scooter Fletcher. Oh, this guy could have been great. One pitch by Mike Torres hit him in the face, in the eye, and he was never the same. Dickie Thon.
I didn't know that part of his career that happened.
He was coming, now he's a shortstop. He was coming off a year in '83, 20 home runs, 79 RBIs, 286 average. And in '84, the fifth game of the season, Mike Torres, pitch got away, hit him in the eye. He was never the same. Former Blue Jay, Nelson Laureano.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I remember him.
And former Astros catcher, Alan Ashby.
Very good player.
No Hall of Famers yet. Oh, Pirates, RJ Reynolds. He was smoking.
He got into it with Barry Bonds in the locker room. I think they had an altercation.
Yeah, you don't mess with a guy named RJ Reynolds, man.
Hey.
Oh, Topps all rookie team, White Sox, Dave Gallagher. Deanna's watermelon. Former Cub, Doug DeCenzo. Decent career.
Yeah.
Pirate pitcher, Scott Medvin.
No, I don't know Medvin.
Phillies, left-handed hitter, Tommy Barrett. Don't remember him either.
I don't either. What happened, man? You're going to get a Hall of Famer. I feel it coming.
Former Cleveland Indian closer. I think he went on to close for the Astros. Doug Jones.
Oh yeah, Doug Jones, honorary customer.
I got the Padres leader, 1988. Guess who led the team in home runs?
In '88. I have no clue.
Romello Martinez. He had 18.
You're going to say I thought that I was thinking Carmelo Martinez.
How about RBIs?
Carmelo Martinez?
Tony Gwynn.
Ah.
How about stolen bases?
I'd say Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn. How about batting average?
Oh, it's got to be Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn. Hits. Tony
Gwynn. Tony Gwynn.
Wins. Eric Shaw. Okay.
Oh, I was going to say Doug Drabeck. I didn't know.
And my last card is Dave Bergman. AJ,
no Hall of Famers.
When the most exciting thing that happens when you open a pack of gum is watching the pack of cards, watching the gum fall out, you've had a bad package. So.
That was a clunker. That one was a clunker. But you know what? That happens. That happens. Well, I hope mine ain't a clunker. Remember, these look like the 1975 cards, my favorite year. A Tampa Bay Ray Vidal Brujon. There he is. There he is. I don't know. Looks like he got called to the front of the class or something. Hey, Brujon, get up here. There he is. Oh, there's trade talk of this man. Maybe not now, but there's been a lot of speculation. The Mets, Pete Alonso, right there.
Yeah.
The polar bear himself. All right. Diamondbacks, maybe. Oh, I remember this guy, Alex Thomas.
Yeah.
There he is. I like those jerseys. those Diamondback jerseys. All right. Philadelphia Phillies. Everybody can pitch on that team. Michael Lorenzen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, I
Bullpen
don't think
guy.
he's with the Phillies anymore. Who's he with?
I don't know. I
Heck of a
honestly do.
hitter. Plays some outfield too.
Oh man, all these names. I can't. Tony Pruno's probably laughing at me. I have terrible. Everson Piera of the Yankees. Does that ring a bell? I do not know this cat.
I don't know him.
Don't know him. All right. Oh, okay. Everybody's got prospects that they're high on. This guy, I've heard his name coming up, but he hasn't done a whole lot in the pros yet. Brett Batty, the third baseman.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a big star, but I haven't heard much out of
Yeah,
him yet.
he's had a few years. They've been kind of waiting for him to put it together.
Put it together. Okay, they got a special card here with a piece of I guess it's his bat. At a lot. You help me with the name. I can't say it. Garcia from the Rangers. I have trouble with that name.
Adolis.
Yes, that name. So anyway, there's the back of the card. Has a 75 look to it.
Nice.
There you are. Yeah, very nice. And my last one, a guy has had a down year. DJ LeMahieu from the Yankees.
Yeah.
Kind of had a down year right there.
What's his birth year? He's getting old, man.
Vince, I hate to say it, I can't read the back of the baseball cards without my magnifying glass. Yeah, I can't. Maybe you can see it in there. I don't.
Yeah, he's born in 1938.
Him and Mr. Greason will be sharing their 100th birthday at the end of this year. That's it.
Well, JJ, episode 92 is in the books, and I think this is the best episode 92 we've ever done.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Very good, very good. All right. You got a big week coming up?
Yeah, I'm doing about 3 shows. Got a big show up by Chicago. I can't pronounce the town. You know me. It's at the 2112 Club or something like that. And I'm opening, and I'm excited about that. I get
Who else is on that?
Well, Tim Loss is on there. And a few other guys I know, but I don't know them real well. But I'm on that one, and there's a couple of bigger comics that from the Chicago area coming down and doing a set. But I've never met them before. But they invited me to come up, and I was like, sure, I'll go. So I'm going to do a couple warm-up sets, and then I'll do my thing Saturday. And other than that, I'll be watching the Cardinals and enjoying life.
Yeah, I got a lot of crap coming up. I got Violet moving to Springfield to go to college. I got Rebecca moving from Springfield to go to Memphis for her PhD. I got my birthday coming up.
Happy birthday!
Yeah. Oh gosh, seems like there's just a lot of stuff. It's squeezing together, coming together.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we will see you all next week. Thank you for joining us. And remember, tell all your friends that there are 2 nerdy guys that like to talk baseball.
Yes, sir.